everyone, and welcome to Everett Today. It's the April 18th, 2023 edition. Actually, Chapter 2. Hello, Darren Costa.
Hello, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's a nice spring day. Spring has sprung. We got two of the three newspapers in front of us. Let's start off with page 11 of The Advocate. I see Darren Costa. Everett Kiwanis Club welcomes new members. When did you join?
So the official date, I'd have to look at my calendar. It was about 2 weeks ago. They have a ceremony that's part of the membership. So I am a new member along with many others here at the city. So it was a really nice event. It was, they generally have lunches down at the high school, which are catered by the culinary division of the high school. So it's always a very pleasant event. The challenge is it's usually happens around noon, and a heavy lunch at noon doesn't call for a very productive afternoon. The last event that they had prior to our installment into the Kiwanis group, they had someone come and speak about their experience in various wars that they were in. So they have quite a few people come in and speak. So it's very interesting. And the reason I particularly wanted to become a member was their mission is really to empower and to give value back to the children of the city and to the school system and really to guide kids in their educational journey. So that was really what the precipice of me chasing, kind of a foundation or a group that could give back to the students.
A worldwide charitable organization. What does Kiwanis mean?
It's a good question.
So there's a lot of these clubs.
Yeah, no, so they also have, they manage local clubs like in Everett, but then they also manage digital clubs, like the E-Club. So they do have an expansive reach, and again, they have all these recurring meetings where they bring people in and educate the group. I also did their training, so took through all the roles and the responsibilities, the president, the treasurer, etc. A lot of positions I'm very aware of, but it's cool to see kind of the back office. It's always, you start with the front, the front facing, the students and giving back and the charity, and then but it's me being a geek, a finance geek. I kind of like to see the systems they use and how they do their tracking and the changes in systems for the website, and being able, a big thing that I try to do in every group I'm in is if they don't have it already, offer some sort of digital payment service, right? Because today we pay with a check. So it's, for me, it's interesting to see kind of where's the club at today, and where are the areas that we can make potential incremental conveniences. But number one is the kids, so I need to figure out, that's my next step, is how do I add value to the student population in their community. So. And they have often, I should say, the Everett Youth Council, which is the group of young people similar to how we have a council here at City Hall for the city. They also have a council, and they've reached out to me and my colleagues, several times about different issues. One of them, which is still business on the table, is around participatory budgeting. Have you ever heard of participatory budgeting?
Nope.
Okay, so the city of Somerville, from what I understand, is doing it. Other cities have done it. It's not new, but participatory budgeting would be allowing the public or even the council to have, through the public, because the council is really the soundboard, or should be the soundboard for the public. So it would be involving the public in deciding how to properly appropriate funding, And so the city of Somerville, I know, has done it recently. I don't know if they've always done it. I just, again, in my research. So the students have asked, with the ARPA funding, which is still largely unspent and unappropriated at this point, have asked for a $1 million appropriation. So although it's not part of the regular budgeting season, because that's rapidly approaching, it is still part of what is allowable spend, and you know there is a lot of decision making that needs to happen. So I have a lot of respect for these young people here, and I want to encourage that because I wish I understood how to be as proactive as some of the young people are today. There's a lot of young proactive people, so I want to make sure
budgeting season, I wouldn't know when. I mean, it's April, so it's like tax days today.
Yeah.
What is budgeting season? People don't know.
Yeah, so the budgets have to be approved
For the city.
For the city, correct. So the fiscal years for municipalities, as far as I understand it, in Massachusetts, but in Everett, work on fiscal year July to June. So June is actually the end of the fiscal year for the fiscal year 23. So we'll start fiscal year 24 planning. And generally that has to be approved by June.
Now, see, I kind of got that in Medford, but they never explained it. So I didn't know what June or July meant with the budget.
Right.
Because they don't want the public to know it's some city councils. They just want to keep it internal, and I like open government. I like us knowing that, hey, what you just explained.
Yeah, I found, and I don't want to steer to another subject, but I found that a lot of people weren't as educated as they should be, for example, on their property taxes. So I held a Zoom seminar, met with many people, did a lot of in-person meetings with people. Found 3 people who had lived in Everett that never had the residential exemption, for example. So in Everett's a city that opts into the residential exemption, which this year would give a homeowner up to about $1,880 of dollar-for-dollar savings on their tax return, and they just weren't aware of it.
And can they amend their return?
They can't go back.
Wow.
So that has a hard deadline also, and I believe it's passed already. So the next, and again, same with the property taxes go on that same July to June. So we get an estimate between July and December, and then we get our actuals right at the beginning of the year. So a lot of people, you know, and again, to your point, it's hard for any of us to know everything, right? It's part of my job to dig in a layer deeper.
Oh, there's so much. Like you were talking about, what, a paywall or something, a pay for the Kiwanis, was it?
Oh, yeah, no, it's interesting that you say paywall, but some sort of digital, you know, being able to digitally pay our dues, for example.
I want people to know this is very important, even though it's not Everett, it's everything. Yesterday, the Boston Globe whacked me for $27.72. I went to the Better Business Bureau complaints, and a ton of people are getting whacked. I wrote to them last week to say, don't resubscribe me if it's going up. They ignored it. Now, they said to me, the guy on the phone was really rude, and I'm doing my investigating. It's like, wow, this happens a lot. And think about this. He was really rude and said, you'll get your money back in 7 to 10 days from April 21. I'm going, wait a minute. 15 days, not 7 to 10. They have this malarkey, this sleight of hand.
Yeah.
Because it was the 17th. I said, I wrote on the 14th. I won't get my money back till May. So I was furious. I wrote to the Attorney General. This was all yesterday. But I want everyone to hear what happened next. I wrote to the Attorney General, Better Business Bureau. Better Business Bureau reached out to them last night. But they're playing with my money. Now, if they do it to 1,000 or 2,000 people, they got 55 grand they're playing with for 15 days.
Well, this is the new game. I saw it happen with Sirius Radio. So the good part is we have 3 free papers here in Everett. So if you pick a good spot, you can pick up all 3.
And they're free good. Online, too.
They're no longer all free online. One does have a paywall.
Okay.
But in all 3 of them, I think, might limit articles available, like some may not. I'm not sure of that. I do pick up the physical papers to read them. Legal notices, make sure everyone picks up your papers to read those legal notices. They're very important. You know, that if you talk about education of a typical taxpayer, those legal notices are very important. But yeah, when it comes to subscription services, I found that with Sirius Radio, they were kind of, you can see a legal notice right there, they were kind of the first to market with that game, right, where they bring you in on a teaser rate. Hey, we'll give you
I'm paying $1.99, but I gotta get out of there.
For the first whatever, you get X, right? The game to them, because these are all companies that report out, and one of the main numbers they report out is subscriptions, number of subscriptions, right? And number of subscriptions is just a moment in time. As of this one date, we had X number of subscribers, regardless of how much revenue you're actually bringing in, which brings up other metrics that are important to a business. But I found that with Sirius, I'd have to call them, I go through. By the third time I call them, like, yeah, just get me to that deal that I want, because they'd offer you one deal, no, I'm okay. They'll offer you a better deal, no, I'm okay. So I think that's kind of become
But I'm just going
the
to cancel
norm.
it because I have too much media.
Listen, I've heard with, I don't know exactly the trick because I don't read the Boston Globe as much, but I heard there are ways to find their articles without having to pay. I'm not suggesting you do that.
Oh no, they farm them out to like Yahoo, so it's legit. They do farm them out because they want that.
They want the
more
attention,
impressions.
right? Yeah.
Now the second thing that happened yesterday, I'm gonna go to the movie that we're gonna talk about in our next show, The Lost Weekend, May Pang. So I'm going to the movie, but I wanted to see about my car registry because I know it's upcoming. It looked just like the Registry of Motor Vehicles, and it said it would pay $1, and I thought it was the Registry of Motor Vehicles. It was some scam company. They whacked my car for $23.95. We're talking $50 between the Globe, more than $50, $52 for the Globe and this company. So I pay the dollar online, silly me. It doesn't have any information about me. And then I look at my credit card and it said 23. I was furious. I wrote the guy, tried calling. First I got a medical line, then I got a sex line. And I'm like, I hung up right away and I'm like, you can't even get through to the guy. But he wrote me, and I called the bank, and as I'm talking to my bank, Eastern Bank, they said, oh, it's off. They took it off, so I got that 23 right back.
Yeah.
The Boston Globe is still pending, and I'm furious. So that's just a little lesson online, people. You got to make sure that it is the Registry of Motor Vehicles and not some scam site, because when you put registry in Google, all these other companies come up first. That's number one. Number two, I'm going to get back to the Kiwanis. As a layperson who's not a member of the Kiwanis, I don't know the difference between the American Legion, the Elks, the Kiwanis. So there's all these organizations that are fun to join. Me, I like joining access stations. That's my thing.
Same. This is
right.
So this is my. I've been part of different social clubs in the past, but they've generally been around, the Azorian culture.
Yeah, social clubs.
Yeah, social clubs. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but. This is my first entry point. I've always done volunteer opportunities, but I've never been part of an organization that surrounds itself in its mission, specifically students and giving back to students. It was really started by businesses and business owners. So although, I've worked in the private industry a majority of my life, I do want to become a business owner at some point and run my own business, whether that be in Everett or not, I'm not sure. But so it gives me that good networking opportunity. Selfishly, networking here in Everett is important, and it is fun because, quite honestly, there's some great people here. Here's
something interesting. Then last Thursday, I was at the Boston Business Expo. Now, this Boston Business Expo is annual. It's a company that tours the country, and they give you free tickets to go in. In fact, I missed a phone message where they had a luncheon, but I couldn't make it. They were inviting me to the luncheon, so I went to pitch our new movie. We're doing a movie, and Greg Paquette's musical play that we talked about. So I drew up all the paraphernalia, went up to Woburn, got it printed at my printer, and went into Boston. And the expo gave you an opportunity to meet with different people. Now, one of my clients needs a good tax attorney. There were tons of tax attorneys there. But why I brought it up while you were talking was this. City of Boston has Small Business Association. And I'm like, wow. The guy was just shutting down. It was around 5-ish. I go, well, wait a minute, let's talk. And he was talking to me. It was great. I said, I live in Everett, which is right on the Boston border. He goes, aha. He goes, I get that question all the time. No, you have to physically have the office in Boston. Mm-hmm. But he goes, every city and town should have this. So it was enlightening. Just by going to these business expos, it's free. You get exposed to stuff you wouldn't even think of. Staples was there and some of the usual, but and it was a good thing for me to pitch my movie. Even if none of it pans out, it's a good exercise. I'm like, I got to pitch anyway. So let me go to a professional atmosphere, grab business cards, and just hone my skills in saying, hey, Aki, I'm doing a new movie, and you're the editor. No, that's my joke. But the business, these things are all intertwined, and why I brought it up was because Boston has a small business. Does Everett have a small business that we know of? Association.
So I reached out to the Chamber of Commerce because I wanted to
Good point.
play a role there. I also reached out to someone else who doesn't have, who's it, the Patch, I think. But I'll look into it. I think that's a great question.
Because they were offering monies to start your own business
And that's
and-
directly through the Small Business Association?
in Boston. So they were there represented at the Small Business Association. And why shouldn't they be? Because it's government money. They get to buy a table. It doesn't hurt them as much as a business. Oh, I meant to bring you guys some of the bottles. They were giving away these bottles. I'll bring them next time in albums. I got to bring some albums for Aki. But next time, I got these bottles from the Small Business Association. There were just tons of them. So, you take them hiking or whatever. Cool plastic containers. But it's almost 1 o'clock. So Everett Today, we're going to be talking to more people about communications. In fact, today is Tuesday. So right now, their Cambridge Health Alliance has over at the Senior Center and over at Whittier Drive, they have people that will help you with your technology if you're a senior and you're a member of that. So the Senior Center is like an Everett social club.
It is.
But anyone can join? Do you have to be a senior?
They have events that are specific for Everett residents, and then they do have events where they're not necessarily checking where people are from. They do have buses that run, for example, from the Whittier Center down to the Connolly Center. So I think, like, for example, their food pantry is limited to just Everett residents.
I
I'd
would
have to double
imagine.
check.
Yeah.
But there are other food pantries in Everett that will cater to the communities surrounding. So, for example, the city runs or has within its buildings an association called Elliott, and they have various things that they give away for people in need. And then there's
Elliott is a nonprofit, but
It's
they
a
have
nonprofit, correct.
Therapists and stuff.
So I've met with the directors there. It was a while back, just to understand their resources. But exactly, a lot of it seems to me to be more socioeconomic and wellness and therapeutic
And they work with Mystic Valley Elder.
I believe so.
They
That's
do.
a good question. Okay.
Oh,
yeah,
no, they
okay.
absolutely do. So if you're with Mystic Valley Elder, you can get help from Elliott by going through your rep at Mystic Valley Elder, which is nice for this show to kind of connect this for people because a lot of people don't know. And we want to get the information out. So, Everett Today, anything else we should talk about with Everett Today?
The only thing I was gonna say was in terms of what's funny is I was looking for the Small Business Association in Everett, didn't see it. Something for Everett, Washington came up.
That always happens.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I have it on my agenda to speak to IT and others about like how we better optimize Everett coming up, because it is important, because most people do Google, like, for example, where do I vote, right? People tend to go Google, where do I vote in Everett, MA, and if it's not well optimized, people tend to just stop looking at like entry 5 on Google. People tend to just kind of stop looking in, then something else comes up, your child cries, or you see something cool on television or whatever, and you move on. But I did speak to a wonderful person, Francis Martinez, who's part of the North Shore Latino Business Association. And they're located in Lynn, and they do an amazing job. They kicked off the opening for a company in Everett on Ferry Street called Carne LC, right? So carne is just meat. So they're a Latino business, small business owned. And they've opened this really nice market, and it's not just meat, it's also a lot of other groceries. And this association, the North Shore Latino Business Association, Francis Martinez, the president and founder, CEO, they do an amazing job guiding businesses to their opening. And then their expectation is, hey, bring in city officials, give them that voice and that access to City Hall. And then it's time for that business association, the North Shore Latino Business Association, to move on to that next business. right? And we need a lot of it in Everett. And a lot of the businesses, I'm sure you've seen, you know, driving around or walking around, there are a lot of Portuguese markets, there are a lot of Spanish markets, and
Malden has an Asian market.
yeah, Super 88. I used to go to Super 88 quite a bit. I think it's on Commercial.
And if you're really good at cooking and you want different flavors, it's amazing because we didn't have this 50 years ago. Things are different, and you can get all sorts of different Indian food. I'm pretty traditional in what I eat, but a lot of people are really good at whipping up the lights and know
Yeah.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing with like 8 dishes.
My wife sends me recipes and I mostly keep within them. But my wife is very structured when it comes to recipes. I'm more of the one pot, throw everything in and kind of hope for
Me
the
too.
best. Yeah.
We're guys. We're guys. But this is Everett Today for April 18th, 2023. I think we covered a good amount.
Covered a good amount.
There's new chairs at Whittier. So if you come down to our piano concerts on Friday mornings, it's every week coffee hour, 9:30 to 11. It's for elders at Whittier, so specifically. But there are new chairs in the room. I'm very excited. It looks spiffy and they're more comfortable. And that's Everett Today for today. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.